Guardians, another TDT video. I'm your humble host, Musim777. I was not planning on making this video today. I was planning on working on Friday's video, tomorrow's video, and there was so much other stuff that was happening, and then this dropped. Oh my gosh. I have to talk about it. I have to say something about it. I apologize if the audio quality isn't the greatest. This is very rushed. I'm using a more compressed format to make this as fast and as speedy as possible. Enough chit chat. Let's talk about each of these points here. My friend in the clan, Freedom, has done a fantastic job of bullet pointing some of the most interesting points. I'm going to quickly read through them with you here, and I'm going to talk about what I think of each of them. All right. Starting off, number 1, starting in Season 14, we won't be capping the infusion on any weapons or armor that have not already reached the cap as of the start of Season 13. This means you'll be able to take your trusty, your Folly Guillotine, and your high stat armor you've earned this year to take on your raid with the Witch Queen. Now, that alone, that could have been the entire TWAB, and I would have been satisfied. In case you aren't aware of what they just said, they basically just said, we're going back on sunsetting. Whoa, time out. Now, here's the thing. The stuff that's already been sunset, it's gone, unfortunately. Obviously, you can still use it and such, but that's been sunset. But the stuff you have right now, that Fellwinter's Lie that you still are using right now and killing a lot of Guardians in the Crucible with it, you'll be able to take that into future seasons as for an indefinite period of time. I don't know if they're ever going to change this, but as I'm reading it right now, sunsetting is dead. Like Anthem, sunsetting has been abandoned. Holy crap. That is incredible. That means that all the stuff that we've been talking about, we as a community, everybody, all Guardians all across the world have been saying that sunsetting is a problem and they don't like it and they don't like the way that was implemented. Bungie actually freaking listened. They actually did what they said they were doing. They went back and they have essentially said, yeah, that was a mistake. We're going to undo that for you. There's so much more in this TWAB. Let's keep rolling. That alone could have been the entire TWAB. Expect to see tuning when it comes to our biggest outliers in PvP and PvE. Yes, I'm looking at you, Fellwinters and Warmind cells. So they're actually trying to balance stuff. I know it's frustrating to see this happen now after all this stuff has already been sunset and, you know, all this other stuff had happened. You know, like if Recluse was balanced differently, we wouldn't had to have sunset it for PvE, or we could have done different things with it. But they're actually taking a second pass at it. This is all coming on the heels of them doing a massive expansion. Bungie invested further in their infrastructure. They got more studios involved, so they have more hands on deck to actually work on stuff, which we will see later in this TWAB. There's just so much to cover here. I want to keep rolling, okay? Starting in Season 14, we will only be raising the power cap by 10 for each non-expansion season. This means if you reach the maximum power in Season 13, when the next season rolls around, you'll be directly in the 10-point pinnacle band of the power pursuit. Now, I know some players like to go for that power grind. They like to get the dopamine rush of seeing a number go up. For me personally, as of late, I have really been not feeling it to play Destiny, and my light level has suffered accordingly, and it sucks. I've been playing Iron Banner with like 30 levels under, doing an okay job, but it's annoying because I've been playing the game for far longer than I would be willing to bet most of the Guardians in the Iron Banner have been playing, but because I wasn't on it and I wasn't grinding my ass off trying to keep up with the power level stuff, I'm significantly behind, and I really like this change. If you as a veteran player jump into the game and you maybe took a break in between, you actually aren't super far behind if you try to go into things like raids, Iron Banner, and Trials of Osiris. This really will cut down FOMO, which is something they've been talking about, but this is like a significant step into actually reducing it. In Season 15, we will be addressing 3-peaking in Trials and Competitive. In these modes, hold on to your horses. Emotes will be disabled and players will be unable to pull out any third-person weapon that does not have ammo. Holy crap. They just said no to 3-peaking, something that we as competitive PvP players have been complaining about since Destiny 1. We've been complaining since Destiny 1 that 3-peaking is a problem and it is annoying to deal with and it slows down the game, and they said, you know what? You're right. It is frustrating to see it takes this long to actually get something done, but I mean, there's so much that's being done right now, and this is huge. This is so big for the players that have been asking for this for so long. It's like Christmas came early. But we're not even through here. Over the next several seasons, we will be making changes to stasis and light-based subclasses in order to achieve a healthier balance of subclasses in the Crucible. Across Season 13 and 14, we will be adjusting stasis in Crucible in order to bring its overall effectiveness in line with our other light-based subclasses. We are finally seeing some serious strides to nerf Stasis. The competitive community as a whole has known that Stasis has been an absolute problem. It's very clear, despite that it's having a low amount of Stasis subclasses you can pick, it is the most represented subclass in PvP because of how ridiculously strong it is. So here are some of the specifics. Behemoth Titan, decreased super damage reduction. Currently it's at 60%, and it's one of the longest supers that's in the game. So great. Increase super energy cost when performing light attacks. Like I mentioned, one of the longest lasting supers in the game, so making it cost more energy to do stuff will bring that down. Remove freeze AoE on supercast. I think that's an interesting way to take it, but I completely agree with it. It can absolutely be panic popped right now and you can get a big bunch of kills. Reduce the travel efficacy of Shiver Strike when slowed. As it stands right now, if you happen to get into a duel with another Stasis user and they say throw a shuriken at you or a dusk-filled grenade, you can essentially just say no to it by pressing your light attack button and punching your way out of it. It's great for kind of countering the stasis with their own stasis, but it makes it very difficult if somebody is actually trying to shut you down, so this will make it a lot easier to punish. Next up, Revenant, decrease Withering Blade damage and tracking. Finally! Honestly, this has been one of my biggest points of contention for the Stasis subclasses has been the Revenant Hunter, because holy damn does it not feel good to get Stasis for 80 damage or so. I think it's like 90 damage. It's way too much damage that can track around cover, so it completely negates cover, and it causes slow, which you've seen other videos talking about how powerful slow is, not just in terms of movement, but in terms of weapon handling and accuracy. So great. Decrease slow stacks applied to targets, talking about the Withering Blade. Fantastic. Remove Shatter Dive damage reduction, another solid choice. I don't understand why it got damage reduction to begin with. It just seemed like a little too much, but great, pulling some of this back. Shadebinder, which a lot of people have said have been one of the weaker of the Stasis subclasses, fixed a bug where Ice Filler bolts wouldn't track towards targets immediately on creation. Quality of life, making it easier to use, understandable, it's great. I don't have any problems with that one. Fixed a bug where Shadebinder super projectiles were not tracking until a certain distance traveled. Okay, so it's not just me. I thought that was just me. I thought it was crazy that the Shadebinder super didn't feel like it was being very accurate. It felt like I was having to like essentially hit somebody with a slow moving projectile, like trying to throw a football to hit somebody to actually get them to freeze. For Season 15, we are also looking at universal adjustments to stasis by increasing damage reduction when frozen to provide more survivability for the victim. Awesome. Again, stasis as a whole and the freezing capabilities as a whole have been a real big problem for a while. Having to invest more into it in order to get that freeze off and then actually be able to kill the Guardian will definitely make it feel more in line with the current light-based subclasses. And one of the biggest ones here, decrease crystal shatter damage. So that's just anytime you shatter somebody, it does a hefty amount of damage. I believe it's around 210-ish damage when you shatter somebody, whether it be all the stasis crystals from the ice wall grenade, or if you just shatter a target, like if somebody's been frozen. It does way too much damage right now. It's like Firefly plus, so this will pull that down and make it a little bit more reasonable, which is great. Following stasis tuning in Season 15, we will also be focusing on light subclasses and release a set of targeted buffs to our most underutilized specializations. Fan-freaking-tastic. As you've seen on this channel before, we've talked about how we would buff some of these light-based subclasses, how we would rework them a little bit, and it's good to finally see some of that actually come to fruition. What they will end up doing will remain to be seen. Will light-based subclasses become the new stasis? Hard to say. It's Bungie. Let's keep rolling. Rebuild the Trials reward structure so that it encourages more players to stick to their active cards longer. Great. Trials has been having a problem of skill creep. You can go watch Ascendant Nomad's video when he talks about that. There's also a Kujay video that talks about skill creep, and it's been something that's been an issue for a while, and one of the reasons is that players have no incentive to really stick with a card for any length of time. Once a card's been soiled, they just reset, and it just becomes this ongoing game of how persistent are you, which this system hopefully will make it to where Trials becomes more of an experience rather than this repetitive grind for trying to get flawless over and over and over again. Investigate opportunities for solo players to participate in trials regularly. That is really interesting. Great change. I wonder how they'll be able to handle it. We'll have to see. After trials, we will be targeting similar in scope refresh to Iron Banner. Great. Fantastic. Crucible as a whole has been absolutely famished, so seeing some of these really core playlists, these power level enabled playlists, actually get some love is fantastic. Vault of Glass will also launch with both a contest mode in the first 24 hours and a world's first race. So this is something a little bit different than PvP, but again, another thing that's going to be awesome to add to the next upcoming season's overall abilities and activities. I mean, we knew Vault of Glass is coming, but on the heels of all this other stuff, I'm actually really excited. I'll be honest with y'all, if I can take a moment here, if I can borrow a moment of your time, I've been really burnt out on Destiny. I have played probably the least amount of continuous Destiny in the last few weeks than I have probably in my entire life. I'm generally pretty active on the game. I'll at least throw an hour at it every now and then. Man, has it not been fun. I've been having more fun making Destiny content than actually playing Destiny. So all of these changes really are revitalizing me and the channel as a whole, because the channel's kind of dependent on the health of the game. So this is really, really good stuff. We've got so much more to cover. You should expect the raid team to have a few tricks up their sleeves when you tackle the depths of Venus this summer. Vague, interesting, and mysterious. I love it. Some world's first raid PvE stuff will be coming as well. There's a whole lot in this TWAB that we're having to curtail in order to not make this video 40 minutes long. So let's keep going through this really chonky TWAB. In Season 14, Ada 1 is returning to the tower, and with her comes the ability for some players to take any armor they have in their collections and turn it into a universal ornament. Transmogging, something we've been talking about for a bit. We're getting some of the details on how this is going to work. It's going to be going through Ada 1. Cool. I like to see characters come back into the game. Every season, Ada will offer players a set of bounties that highlight various activity types. Players can complete these quests and receive the materials they need to power up Ada's Loom, which can turn any piece of armor in your collections into a permanent universal ornament. Players short on time will be able to purchase synthesis tokens for silver. I don't mind them essentially doing the kind of a mobile game route where you can use money to essentially cut back on the time. I know some players are going to have a problem with that, but I'm okay with that. Bungie does still need to make money. They are still a business, and I'd say this is a fair way to do it. You can either spend your time and go do it yourself, or you can spend a little bit of money. I am somewhat tempted to spend money on some of this stuff because I don't have as much time. I'm making videos on the side, so that's great. Sure, why not? Crossplay is coming to the masses in Season 15. We've got more information on that here coming on this next point, but okay, so we know that it's coming in Season 15. Great, we have a general set deadline. There's a lot of concerns that arise when we talk about crossplay. Number one being cheating, number two being, can I turn it off and on? Well, these next points address it directly. Don't worry, we won't be matching console and PC players together in the Crucible unless PC players specifically invite their console friends to play with them in the PC Crucible pools. So that means that yes, it's essentially something that you can choose. So if you're a console player like myself and you're worried about getting 180 no-scoped by a PC player who has no need of the mod for traction, don't worry. It'll be something that you can choose on and off. That's exactly the way it should be. This is fantastic. The next point here, I'll just kind of briefly generalize. Ikora Rey is going to be becoming a more crucial part in the next coming seasons and the next coming story expansion, so great. She hasn't been kind of taking a bit of a backseat in these last few expansions, so it's good to see her back. She's the Warlock Vanguard, and as a Warlock myself, I got a rep for her, right? In Season 15, we will introduce our first round of legendary Stasis energy and power weapons. Ooh, interesting. I don't think that these weapons are going to actually cause slow. I think that would be really nuts if they did. They talk about making this kind of more of an established damage archetype, similar to how Arc Solar and Void works. So seeing Stasis come in as that will be hopefully not too much of a game changer outside of like a new shield that you have to bust or something like that. We'll have to see. Will it cause slowness effects? Really not sure. We'll really have to see how this goes though. That kind of covers some of the huge, giant, massive main points that was covered in this TWAB. There is so much to cover. I'm going to leave a link to the actual TWAB itself in the description down below if you want to take a read for yourself. Like I said, there is a lot in there. So go grab a cup of coffee and get 40 minutes of your time available to go read it, because it is very, very thick. One of the things I would have liked to have seen is some talk about bringing in new Crucible maps or new Crucible modes. Both of those would have been nice as an addition to the game, as something that can help breathe a little bit of life back into the game. But time will tell. Maybe they're still going to do it. Another thing that's worth mentioning here, something that my friend did not point out as one of the key points, is that they've doubled the size of the anti-cheat team, and they're also devoting more energy and resources to it. So anti-cheat actually is going to be becoming a thing. There is some memes about I think it was DMG04 or Cosmo talking about anti-cheat, and he got memed on. A lot of people said this had the same energy as quote-unquote we're listening, but it seems like that's actually the case. That's another huge point here. There's so much to cover, guys. I hopefully was able to give you a brief summary of some of the really, really big, major key points. Let me know what you think of this one. If you're new to the channel, of course, subscribe. Bless your faces, and deuces.